First, though, random COVID-19 testing returns today to 4 of Canada's busiest airports. But this time, testing will be done off-site. The federal government halted the policy last month to help ease congestion at airports. Greg Fergus is Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. He joins us now from Aylmer, Quebec. Mr. Fergus, good to have you back on the program. Thanks for making the time.
It's a pleasure to see you again.
We noted there in our introduction that the testing has changed insofar as it will be done off-site. Can you guarantee or can you reassure Canadians that this will not add to the problems that we're already seeing at airports? Because we have heard from industry stakeholders who say that it could.
Well, I think just like the person who you had shown the video and the lead into the story had said, it's about receiving an email. So the people who are going to be passing through the airports will be randomly selected, will be receiving an email notification to go to an off-site, an outside location, not in the airports, to get random testing. Now, what that means is that chances are they're going to be like when I once went to the United States earlier this year, and to come back in, I had to go testing. I went online. I was invited to go online and to have somebody witness me doing the rapid test. So that's what it would be. Or they could be invited to go to an actual site, but outside of an airport to do the testing. But it's all going to depend upon their access and their ability to get online. So in other words, we don't want to get in the way of Canadians going through airports, of international visitors coming here, but we do want to remain vigilant, and we want to be able to monitor the spread of the new variants of COVID to making sure that we can keep Canadians safe.
Yeah, can you help us understand the evidentiary justification for it? I've heard the Minister of Transport as well talk about the identification of variants, for example, or just the concept of surveillance. And I wondered if you can explain how doing something like this is effective when we know, for example, that those variants are already here, that there is widespread community transmission, that there are tools like wastewater, for example, that can be used for surveillance. Why this, especially when, the tourism industry has already suffered a lot?
Well, for sure. I think the most important thing is that we want to keep everyone safe, and we want to do so in a responsible way. Now, we're not going to be trying to put up the guards and making sure that, no one gets in. We're beyond that now. We have the vaccines. We have different methods of being able to trace and to keep people safe and to deal with the fact if they do get sick. But what we do want to do is be aware of where these variants are coming from and when are they coming into Canada. And the way to do that is to test about 4,600 people who come over land or by air. And that's out of almost 4 million people who do that every day. Every week. So I think that's, we're really trying to get that statistically reasonable and reliable number to be able to trace what type of variants are coming into the country.
And I just want to be clear, though, because when you talk about coming into the country, there was a time in which your government, for example, banned people from South Africa from coming here because of the identification of a variant. Was that a mistake? And can you assure Canadians and those traveling to this country that won't happen again?
Well, I can't. I can reassure Canadians that we're going to be remaining vigilant. And I can tell people that we make the best decisions on what we can at the time that we had it. When people were coming through, when there were the first signs of Omicron coming in through South Africa, that was the reason why for a limited time, they had banned people from coming in from those areas. We just want to really make sure. Now, I think with this system that we have, it's sort of like doing a poll. We're doing a sample size of folks coming through, and that should give us a statistically valid way of measuring what type of variants are coming in and from where.
You don't think, though, that decision around South Africa was a mistake? I mean, it was a very drastic step, and what we do now know is that Omicron was already here.
If it was a mistake, I would say it was a mistake that was made in good faith. The reality is we were making policy as the circumstances changed. That makes sense. We haven't had a pandemic like this in over 100 years. So we're doing our very best. And I think we can always learn from what we've done in the past. And this is one of the reasons why we've moved to this sampling method to determine where variants are coming from, especially since over 90% of Canadians now are vaccinated and and doing their very best to keeping each other safe.
I would just quickly acknowledge before I move on, I do remember the World Health Organization at the time that decision was being made, and it was being made in other countries as well, to be fair, was criticized by people in the WHO for not being effective. But I do want to ask also some additional questions of you, Mr. Fergus, where that congestion that we referred to at airports is concerned. I know that the federal government has made some moves. In particular, I think it was at the beginning of June, we interviewed the transport minister around the hiring, I think he said, of 800 additional workers where security is concerned. Have they all been hired? Have they all been trained? And are they all working right now?
Well, I have some good news. We're well beyond 800 who have been hired and who have been trained and who are now in place and working in airports such as our two busiest airports, among our two busiest airports, Vancouver and Toronto. We are having more people than we would have had in pre-pandemic times who are going to be helping move people through and making sure that they can do so safely and securely, but efficiently.
So everybody that you have hired since these problems arose, that the government's hired, is actually working? I just want to get a sense for Canadians who are still stuck in those security lines, and we've actually got some emails from them today that no, they're up to full staff. Like this is the solution at work.
We're up to full staff. There are obviously ways that we can make sure that we accommodate. We have a responsive and a sort of a flexible system as planes come in to have more people, making sure that they get through CBSA border controls. When there is less traffic time, then that number reduces. We always want to be efficient and effective and do the best we can to making sure that Canadians who are finally able to travel again do have a really good experience at doing that. It just took us a bit of time as things ramped up very quickly to adjust to the new traffic patterns that we hadn't seen in a couple of years.
Do you agree, though, that the experience right now is not a good one for many Canadians at airports, though? And I'm not saying that's the full culpability of the federal government. Obviously, the airlines are at play here. The airport authorities are. Yeah. I know that the minister and your government has had conversations. Is there with those airlines, with the airport authorities? But I feel like, is there a message here for Canadians, like you'll be in this situation for a few more months, for a year, for 6 months? Like, what can you? Is there any accountability, any hammers the federal government can throw down where the airlines are concerned that will see, that will allow Canadians to have an experience in those airports that does not involve waiting 6 or 8 hours, that does not involve their flights being canceled, does not involve thousands of pieces of luggage sitting in those airports for weeks at a time?
Well, we're throwing in a whole bunch of issues there. We're throwing in baggage handling. We're throwing in making sure people coming from international flights get through border controls. We're talking about airport security. I can tell you that on the side of what the federal government is responsible for airport security, for border controls, we're really throwing everything at it to making sure that people can have a quick and efficient way of getting through. With regards to baggage claims, we are obviously in discussions with our airlines and to try to make sure that they are providing an equally useful experience. I know I'm just like every other Canadian who's traveling. I've had those experiences where my bags didn't follow me. It's not pleasant. It happened to me just yesterday. But it's one of those things where I think people are trying to make it work and they're trying to adjust after having for so long, not much traffic at airports. Then all of a sudden to wrap it up, they had to hire new people. But we're working together, and I know that the minister is in contact with the airlines and the airport authorities to try to make this a better experience.
I take all your point on that, and I'm not trying to diminish those efforts. But can you tell Canadians watching tonight they can expect a pathway back to normal in the next few months, or will they be looking at this situation throughout the rest of the year?
As long as, I'm going to say that with a bit of an asterisk beside it, that yes, Canadians can expect us to do so, subject to, of course, the emergence of a new variant. If people get sick, if employees, unfortunately have to take time, and well, they should, to making sure that they don't spread whatever new variant makes its way through. We're still in a pandemic. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're trying to adjust properly and giving people an opportunity to travel safely and efficiently.
Okay, Mr. Fergus, I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capellas.
That's Greg Fergus. He's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.